All right, everybody, welcome back to Pivot Point of View. I'm Destri along with Becky Pearson. Last week, we had an amazing conversation with Dr. Kim Rasmussen about back pain in horses. If you missed it, go back, watch it. Make sure that you go to the YouTube channel because we have a ton of visuals on there. She goes step by step on how to diagnose and what areas she treats with a skeleton model there. It was an amazing episode. Today, we have Gayle White, special guest. She's doing our performance program. She's barrel raced for a long time, has a ton of experience in this industry, and we can't wait to hear from her. Gayle, how are you doing today?
Well, just fine. Thank you.
Gayle, how did you get your start in barrel racing? I mean, you've lived in Alaska, now you're in Nebraska, you're just kicking tail all over the place throughout your career. So how did you get your start in barrel racing?
I grew up on a ranch and my neighbor barrel raced. And of course, we always had horses and I always rode. But my neighbor barrel raced and she was like a mentor to me. And I wanted to be just like her. And finally, 4-H came into the area and I begged and begged and begged. Finally, my parents took me to the 4-H meeting, and that led to the 4-H horse shows. So that was the start. And
where was this at, Gayle?
Nebraska. I grew up here in Nebraska.
What part?
Right where I am right now, southwest of North Platte, 30 miles near a small town named Dickens. And it was a rural area, not many neighbors, and they were quite a ways apart.
I gotcha. So when did you did 4-H? When did you start rodeoing?
Well, I tried rodeoing in high school, but the horse I had was a very nice little horse, but he couldn't run. he could not run. And we would run a perfect pattern and be off a complete second. And so I got out of high school and it took like 10 years for me to get horses back. And that was in Alaska. And I barrel raced up there for 6 years. And then we moved back to Colorado. And I rodeoed in Colorado then until like 1994 when we came back to Nebraska.
What was it like barrel racing in Alaska? I gotta know. I mean,
it's terrible.
That is such a different frontier, and it's hard to picture barrel racing up there. What was it like? What was the ground like? What were the arenas like?
The arenas were hard. It was rocky. The whole area is rocky. We were near Anchorage, and that's where most of the rodeos were. It was a very small rodeo community, very close. You could ride from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and that's when the rodeos were. Before Memorial Day, they had what was called breakup, and everything was just a muddy mess. And then after Labor Day, and even on Labor Day, it was likely to snow.
Wow.
So it was a very short season.
What were the horses like up there, Gayle? Where did you get them from? Did you import them from?
Yes.
Like, did you go to Canada and get some of them? Or where did you get your horse flesh up there? What were they like?
Most of the barrel horses up there and most of the rope horses were all imported. Some came from Washington. I brought a couple from Nebraska here. And everybody pretty much brought horses in because there wasn't any breeding programs up there. It was too expensive to breed anything. So you just brought your horses up.
How about the hay situation? How is that up there? That would also be expensive, I would think.
Yes. They compressed the bales and shipped them up on the barges. And back in the early 80s, we were paying $400 a ton.
Wow.
And I have no idea what it is now.
Hmm.
So it was a very luxurious thing. You didn't waste a single stem.
I bet not.
No.
Gayle, you've always had a great eye for horse flesh. You've had a ton of nice horses, and you continue to have nice horses. What is it that you look for when you're going to buy a horse?
Conformationally correct is the main thing. And I've had lots of mistakes. The straight legs, the good shoulder, the hip, the trapezoid, from the side, and from the front, you want a V. Short cannons, decent bone, just solid straight legs. It's the main thing. And then, the breeding's gotten so good that you can look at the registration papers and pretty much know what you have as far as ability and their mental outlook. And for many, many years, I raised my own horses. And it's just been in the last 7-8 years that I've purchased horses.
I gotcha. Tell us about some of your horses that you've had. What was your favorite one over the years?
Oh, I would guess that would be the horse that you rode, Destri Boy, who was a misfit and nobody liked. and then I couldn't sell him, so I decided to ride him, and he did wonderful things. And
He was.
He just died way too young.
He was an awesome horse, and to give everybody some perspective on this horse, I rode this horse for Gayle when he was, what was he, Gayle, 5, something like that,
I
4 or
think
5,
so.
and did some ranching on him, and took him and ranched on him there in Nebraska when we lived up there, and did a little bit of roping. And this horse, he was just so lazy and laid back. I mean, he was so lazy. You wouldn't have thought that he would ever become a timed event horse or a barrel horse, nonetheless. And I mean, if he didn't want to go, sometimes he just didn't want to. And my wife got on him one day, and we were in the roping pen, and I was roping the sled, and then I switched to another horse, and she got on him, and she was trying to get him to go, and he was tired, so she literally had to grab the split boot off the stirrup and whip him with it to get him down to the other end to bring the cattle back. I mean, and so then, Gayle was trying to sell him at that time. And I said, Gayle, you can't sell this horse. I mean, he's gonna be safe. He's gonna make a nice horse once he figures it out. And Gayle didn't sell him, and he just went on to be an amazing horse. And then you didn't have him on the barrels that long, and he was already in the 1D.
Well, it did take a while. The first thing was to just, I think, ride him and tell him he was a good boy and build his confidence up and that kind of thing, and then get him a little more responsive. And then he did go on to do good things. I mean, he was just steady Eddie, and he usually drew a check.
Yeah.
And he qualified me for San Angelo on my very first outing into the pro world, and I did not get to go back, but he did that. And then I went to Hastings, and he got a check there. And then that was the next rodeo, was the end of him.
Oh,
I see.
And probably better than that horse was his mother. His mother was a great horse that I had purchased from a neighbor off the track. And she went on to be, I think we were like third at Garden City back when it was a big pro, and third or fourth at Burwell. And, she won Bertrand, Bridgeport, a lot of rodeos around. She was also a really good horse before she got hurt, but then she raised good babies. So she was probably the most influential horse.
I think you mentioned the great point there in the mare side being so important in having a great horse, and sometimes that might be overlooked. Would you say?
Very much so. Very much so. You look at a lot of pedigrees, and it will be an incredible stud, and then a mare of stuff you've never heard of. And I think that's why there's a lot of studs that don't get the recognition they deserve because they breed them to nondescript mares. You know, I think that Lisa in Broken Bow with her Ain't Seen Nothing Yet is careful who she breeds to. And it seems like every horse out of that stud becomes great. I'm sure there's some misfits, but it just seems like that.
How were these horses bred? Boy and his mother, how were they bred?
The mare on the top side was the Streaking Six granddaughter, and on the bottom side she was a thoroughbred that went to raise a native, and then they were both out of the old Wada Boy in Lincoln that was a Dash for Perk stud, and went to First Prize Rose, which was the mother of First Down Dash.
Okay. Those are some nice horses for sure.
Yes, they were. They were all very nice.
And they're all big. I mean, they're big and muscled up, and they all look really great. Another
with good minds.
And with a good mind. And another staple of your program that my wife and I really appreciate, and my wife has learned a ton from you about horsemanship and how to soften one up, and she does such a great job with our horses now. Anytime I get on one of my horses after she's been on it, it's softer and more responsive, and she just does such a great job, and she learned a lot of that from you. So talk about what buttons you like to put on a horse, and where you got your feel for horsemanship from.
Well, I think a lot of riding, and I really had fun riding with Jordan, and watching. And I had a mentor, Margaret Hawkins, and she was strong into horsemanship and dressage and collection and response. And that helped me a lot. Plus, if you're riding a horse and pull on the reins and you have to pull back a foot to get a response, that takes a lot more time than just moving your fingers. So, it pays to have them broke. And you can have a natural horse and he will work for you, but sooner or later you're going to run into a little problem with it. And if he's not responsive and broke, you can't fix it till you go back and get the basics on the horse. There's a lot of gimmicks out there, and bits do a lot, but none of them are a substitute for the good horsemanship, hands and legs. Excuse me.
And it doesn't substitute for good foundation on a horse. Like you said, they have to be broke to fix things. And, I'm so glad that you brought up the fact that you got your start in 4-H. I really feel like that, the process of 4-H is, you have to now pass certain levels just to be able to compete at the county fair, and I think that is such a good way for kids to get their start, is to go through that process. And I really wish there was a way to implement that into the rodeo system. I know it probably will never happen, but that when we're going to the high school rodeos and when we were at the junior high rodeos, that's probably one of the things that I see lacking the most is horsemanship in these kids. And, a lot of times you just see these parents are putting these little kids on these high powered horses, and it is scary, to say the least. So I think, you get your good foundation from your horsemanship by learning those basics early on. And if you didn't get them early on, finding somebody to help you with that for sure.
And in defense of that, horses aren't the staple of a ranch life anymore. There are fewer and fewer ranches, and fewer people live in the country with the ability to ride when they want to or need to. That's changed a lot. That makes it harder.
Yes.
Absolutely. And Gayle, you live in the Sandhills and you live out on your own place there with lots of land around to ride and hills to work. Talk about how you like to utilize the landscape around you to condition your horses. I mean, it's deep sand around there. They may or may not have yucca plant barrel patterns sometimes and learn how to rate and turn around yucca plants and stuff. Talk about your conditioning program, and also you have a great feel for your horses, and you can feel when one's off, and that's just so important to know your horse like that. And anytime you have a horse, I know that that horse is going to get the greatest care because you're going to know right off if something is not right with that horse.
Well, I've learned a lot along that over the years too. That's part of the experience thing. I ride in the pastures and trot and gallop in circles and up and down hills. I have lots of soap weeds or yucca plants, and that helps colts a lot because if they don't listen to your cues, they get poked when you turn circles around them, and and it doesn't take long. And then they're more in tune to listening.
That'll fix shouldering.
No hitting barrels on.
True. Yeah,
Gayle's not going to be hitting any barrels on her colts because there's a consequence for getting off early.
Sometimes the horses get a lackadaisical attitude or just kind of not paying attention, not tuned into you, and that helps that. As does in the cattle in the summertime. I move them from pasture to pasture, and that helps too. That gets them paying attention.
Yeah, give
it's
their
a
mind
reason to do what you're asking them to do.
Exactly. Give them some purpose. Give their mind something else to think about. And I think that that's what I miss the most about living in Nebraska is having those opportunities to get out in wide open spaces, let your horse move out across space, trail cattle, just give them something else to do and something else to think about. There's no substitute for those miles. There really isn't. And conditioning wise for their mind, especially developing young horses. I think, when we were growing up, our young horses, they had to earn their way to the arena. They always started in the ranch area. And then as they got better at that and more broke, then we took them to the arena, and they made a lot nicer horses in the arena with those types of miles. So Gayle,
Right.
So the horses that you've had are extremely athletic. So talk about how, I mean, you've obviously probably had some injuries yourself and things like that. Talk about how you've taken care of yourself and what you do to stay with these very athletic horses for your career. Because, I mean, again, another petite lady who has competed at the highest level and is still winning barrel races to this day and on these incredibly athletic horses. How do you stay with them, and how do you stay healthy year after year?
The school of hard knocks. And as I get older, it's more incentive. And I have found out that I am not staying with them as good as I like. That's what brought me to you guys. Pulled muscles, and I thought I've always stretched for probably the last 5 to 10 years, did stretches before I rode. But I found out this year I didn't get all the right spots stretched. and I pulled or strained some muscles, and that's what brought me to you guys to begin with, because I realized it wasn't enough and I needed fixed. And Becky can fix me and heal that, and you can fine tune it so that I'm keeping the right muscles and strengthening them to help my riding. And I just feel you two are a very, very, very powerful combination that can help a lot of riders.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I would like you to keep this secret so that other riders can improve.
A true competitor. We're a secret weapon.
Yeah, if you can't beat them, you use what other methods you can to help yourself out.
Absolutely. And Gayle, you've had knee replacements. I mean, what a shoulder surgery. Like you've had a couple different things. Another thing we added to your program was some eye tracking things and some visual aspects to your program to help with your depth perception and things like that. How has that helped you at all?
Yes, I feel it has. I can't tell you exactly. I can't just pinpoint it, but I do feel I'm seeing things better. And Good. And I think I've really needed that, with my 7 eye surgeries and blind in one eye. It's taken a toll on me. And I know that there are people that have one eye. I know 2 of them, and they do very, very, very well. And I have struggled. Going through drive-throughs are one of the scariest things in the world. But I feel that, and I just can't pinpoint it, but I do feel better since starting these. I can't be exact, but I think it's helping.
One of the things that you brought up when we first talked about it is you said after you turn first barrel and you're running over there to second barrel, wasn't it, that you actually see 2 barrels? Is that right?
No, I haven't done that, but I have had to work and figure out my new pocket area. What used to be 3 feet isn't 3 feet now. So I actually had to go out and mark it off, and then, made sure I hit that mark each time to get the feel of it. Plus, I was looking too soon down, and my horses were turning too soon. And that's part of the depth perception, I believe. So
do you want to talk a little bit about what what spurred you to recommend the visual stuff for Gayle? Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I think people are not going to know much about how this plays a part, but I think it is really, really important for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, so I do a little bit about Gayle's history with her eye surgeries and things like that. And so one of the goals and one of the things that I've been looking at, and that's also so important in sport performance, is depth perception and knowing where you're at in space and proprioception and everything else. And so there are eye exercises out there to train your eyes to improve those areas. And I wasn't sure what kind of exercises Gayle had done since her eye surgery to help that. But I first got exposed to it with our concussion kids. And so to help our concussion kids get back on track, we give them a lot of eye tracking exercises, and just different movements, keeping your head still and focusing on certain points and up and down, side to side. And then also with your depth perception, doing the bombs and other things like that, the near point convergence exercise to help your depth perception. So when you're running into the barrel, you have more of an acute sense of where you're at as in relationship to your pocket and stuff like that. So it's all the systems working together to help sharpen your senses so you can hit your barrel at the right spot, because you're running in there at Mach 90, and you also have to train your reaction time and things like that. And so we're trying to put different aspects of that into our programs to make your mind sharper and your eyes sharper as well. And so far, I think it's been a good deal.
I agree. I think it's very, very good. And uh, I know after my surgeries, I knew I was having trouble, and I asked for therapy, and the only therapy they offered was more like how to use the magnifying glasses and that type of stuff. But this is what I need. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
Right. And having your eyes sharp also helps your balance too. And then that's another big thing that, training the eyes and knowing where your body's at in space and helping your balance that way. That's just another aspect to help you improve your balance and reaction and all that stuff. So
yes,
I'm really excited I'm really excited for that part of your program and to see how that continues to develop. So
I'm excited about the whole thing. You're doing wonders with me.
Absolutely.
I think it's going to be important for us at some point to cover the concussion and the visual ocular rehab type of things, because there are so many riders out there that get concussions, and we are independent people. It's like if we can get up and keep going, we just do. And so I know there's been so many times we've had friends that have had a concussion or family members, and they talk about their levelers not leveling, and that their balance is off. And so I think these are really important things for people to think about, is that there are ways to rehab your visual system, your vestibular system, which is the system that helps your balance, and help that work together so that you can get back to performing. So yeah, I think we could do an entire episode probably just on the visual part of this, don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I have a resource, Dr. Todd Kays at the Kays Institute in Omaha, that has taught me a ton about the current concussion research and vestibular rehab and stuff like that. And he does all of his stuff virtual. And so I've learned a ton from him on how to do those evals virtual and give them exercises and everything else. And he's just been a great resource that's really got my mind thinking about going to the next level and helping people with head injuries, because you don't realize some of the time, like, you might be symptom free, but your reaction time and stuff like that may not have come all the way back, and you might not realize it. You might have no idea. Just little subtle things until you do these exercises, and then all of a sudden stuff gets sharper like it was before. And also the lasting effects of head injuries, eye injuries, stuff like that can continue to dog you down the road. Doing small things, there are ways to improve that process and get you even sharper than you were before. And that's what's always interested me. And you can put it in your exercise program. You can put a spot on the wall and focus on it while you're doing your squats, or if you're doing a side to side lunge, putting that, and then you're working this way on that focal point, and then doing stuff on one leg and bringing your finger out here and tracking it in for the near point convergence and working on your depth perception. It helps everything. It helps your driving when you're going from rodeo to rodeo late at night, and you're more sharp on paying attention to stuff on the road and deer over here and everything else, and your peripheral vision. I mean, there's just so many things that vestibular rehab can help. And the most important that everyone needs is balance in this sport.
Right.
Amen.
And my balance has been deteriorating, so this is good.
Yeah, and I would say that comparatively, your balance is very good, and you stay with your horses very well. I mean, watching your videos, you're not just along for the ride. I mean, you are riding these horses and making them go where you want them to go. And I mean, they're extremely athletic, big, powerful horses. These are not little lopers. I mean, these are 1D, high-powered, 15.2 to 16. I mean, how big are some of your horses? I know they're at least 15.2, most of the ones that I've been around. And I mean, they're big, muscled up horses. They all look great at all times. I mean, absolutely.
Yes, I think 16.1 is the tallest that I was sticked, but they are big. And
Yes.
you have to stay a certain amount of limber to get on.
Well, you got your step stool and all your other methods to figure that out. And that's just adds another level to their brokenness and stuff for them to stand there and let you get on them and not be dancing around you and doing circles, because you teach them respect as well.
Right. Standing is very important when you get on.
Yeah,
It's gotten more important.
absolutely.
Gayle, can I tell people how old you are?
Uh,
Or you tell
yes.
people how.
No, you tell them.
Gayle is 74 years young. She is amazing. You are just like the Energizer Bunny. And you're not just barrel racing, like you're not just retired and out there with your horses and riding. Like Gayle is also balancing a very successful career as a real estate agent as well. And so it is to me like, yeah, you are. If I can be as active as you at 74 years old, it'll be a win for sure. So tell us a little bit about your real estate career. How long have you been doing it? And how'd you get into it?
Well, I got in. It's something I wanted to do for years and years. However, I needed the steady income, so I just could not do it because of my horse habit. And during my eye surgeries, after the eye surgeries, I had to lay face down for 3 days. And I found you could lay on the couch, turn your head, and look at the iPad on the floor. So I took online courses. And then when I finished the courses, I went and got my license. And I have been a realtor for 6 years. And I just enjoy it. I really enjoy it. It's something I've wanted to do a long time. I meet the neatest people in the world and have fun doing it. So cool. It's just fun.
That's
I'm so glad you did it, Gayle. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. That's a very important thing you brought up, Gayle, for everyone is age just being a number, and there's no matter at what point in your life you're at, you can always better yourself. And I think that's one of the things that's made you so successful in your career is you are constantly looking to better yourself in all aspects in your career, in your barrel racing, in your health. And that's what keeps you at the top of your game and sets you apart. And so just the fact that you strive to make yourself better all the time is just so admirable. And I think you're seeing the results of it as well. I mean, with we started out meeting weekly. Now we've gone to bi-weekly meeting with Gayle, and we co-treat her. She goes over to Becky's house. Becky works on her. They Zoom me in. And so I can look at stuff and see where we need to go with her exercise program. And just watching your improvement over the past month has been absolutely incredible. I mean, your squat is so much more controlled and looks so great. You're able to do more advanced exercises now. I mean, you were crushing it, Gayle. And it's all because you push yourself to get better and you do the things that it takes to continue to be healthy and continue to compete at a high level.
That's because I have a great team looking out for the good of me. So
absolutely.
I'm really, and I do feel stronger, and I can tell the difference in my riding because of my leg muscles are stronger, and I'm not hanging on, but feeling better. It's just great. I think you guys have the world's best idea right here for the horse person of helping everybody.
Well, thank you so much, Gayle. We absolutely love working with you, and you're such a dear friend, and we just always want to see you continue to do your best and be at the top of your game.
Thank you. Maybe another year's in me.
Yeah. Or 10.
I don't know about that. Might be down to trail riding by then.
And you'll be the best trail rider that's out there. I don't, if I know anything about it.
Yeah,
you'll be in the lead for sure.
Well, Becky, do you have any other questions for Gayle?
I don't think so. I just appreciate you so much, Gayle. Gayle sold me my place, so man, I'm forever grateful and love it. And she was a great person to work with. So look her up. Gayle, right now, if somebody wanted to see any of the properties that you have available, where would they find them, and or how do they reach out to you if they want to take a look at some?
My phone number would be the very best thing. It's 308-532-0900.
All right.
And we could go have some fun looking at houses.
Yes. And she's so knowledgeable about the horse properties, and that, you know, Gayle being a horse person, it was awesome to see that she had this place listed. It was a turnkey property, and Gayle met with me very early one morning, and so she goes above and beyond to see. We even had a little bit of a we used a horse as part of our payment on this. The people selling were horse people, and I had a horse that I needed to move to be able to afford it, and we kind of negotiated that in the process, so that it's a normal, not a normal thing, but you know, it was just awesome. I don't recommend coming to a deal with only horses as your down payment.
But it happened to work.
It happened to work.
Then care of cats too. Agreement.
Yeah. So we appreciate you, Gayle, and
well, I appreciate you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yes, Gayle, thank you so much. Gayle, anything else you want to tell the listeners out there? Any final words of wisdom?
Yes. A horse rises or falls to the level of its rider.
Absolutely. Those are words to live by. Well, Gayle, thank you so much again. We really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to work with you and to come on here and share your experience. We absolutely love you. So thank you, everyone, for listening. And as always, let your health be the pivot point to your success.